Hello, welcome to the Coaches and Coxswains meeting for the Knecht Cup Regatta on April 13th and 14th, 2024 on the Cooper River in Pennsauken, New Jersey. My name is Jessica McAleer. I myself was once a Division III athlete, class of '04, and this weekend I will be joined by 18 other referees from the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, and Midwest, as well as our local organizing committee, the Cooper Rowing Club. In this presentation, we'll go through control commission, the warm-up, the start, racing, the finish, and safety. So launching. The first launch, the docks will open up at 6:45 a.m. and we recommend that you launch somewhere between 28 and 42 minutes prior to your event. Please do not launch more than 42 minutes prior, because with 7-minute centers and 6 boats potentially per event, we don't want too many boats on the water at once, as the warm-up area can be tight. Remember to supply your own bow number. All bow balls will be checked for sturdiness by control commission. The heel ties will be spot checked. And as you're bringing boats down to the dock, please minimize the number of helpers. Really no more than 10 people per team. So that's your 8 rowers, coxswain, and coach. And then when you are seated, we ask that you walk the boat along the dock to the end, rather than shoving the dock away, because these docks are perpendicular to the shore. They are not alongside the shore. That means if you shove the dock, you're more likely moving the dock rather than moving your boat, and people standing on the dock could get unbalanced. And then once you're on the water, go ahead and tie in. For the warm-up, please stay close to shore. If you're launching from the Cuthbert docks, make sure to steer clear of the finish line. If you're launching from the La Scala docks, you'll be coming out around the 1,500-meter mark. Be aware that as you approach 500-meter mark of the race course, there is a pinch point. And once you get around that pinch point, just continue to follow the shore around to the right, and that'll lead you into an actual counterclockwise loop in the top 500-meter area. And then once the previous race is gone, you can warm up in your lane if you have time. So here's a map of the course. Most crews will be launching out of the Cuthbert parking area on the far right side beyond the finish line, but only up to 40 trailers, and we'll have at least another dozen trailers or so launching from what we call the La Scala dock up above the 1,500-meter mark there. And we'll follow on the north side towards the start, and then racing is from west to east to the finish line. So at the start, we ask that you start to queue up about 8 minutes prior. That way you can hear the start of the previous race, and you can get in order so that as soon as the previous race clears breakage, you can go ahead and start moving into your lanes. Make sure you're locked on 2 minutes prior to the start. And then when you are locked on, be sure to use sculling strokes to maintain your point. And if you don't know what I mean by that, please ask your coach or a more experienced rower. You should not be taking a normal stroke to get your point with 2-seat or bow seat, because that will pull you forward. The sculling strokes with the oar next to the boat will simply move your bow left to right. There will be silent alignment from the shore, and the fingers will be moving in and out so that everyone is on the same start line. If this is your first race this spring using stake boats, make sure you practice ahead of time, and that you also practice sculling ahead of time. When it's safe to do so, the starter will begin pulling the start. And during this polling process, you can still work on your point. And it's we will not be recognizing hands. As long as it's safe, we will start the race. So it's up to you or your coxswain or bow person to optimize that point. And the start will be with a flag. So here's a little diagram of the start area. You can see the warm-up loop up above. As you come around the pinch point there at 500 meters, stay to the right, doing loops in counterclockwise fashion. If you're warming up back towards the finish line, just be aware of crews coming around the pinch point, and do not let any part of your boat cross that buoy line into lane 1. And you can see my cute little diagram of a boat lined up at the start using the sculling strokes as I described. So I'm concerned about the forecast, especially on Saturday. This is as of Wednesday at noon. Hopefully the forecast will improve in the next couple days. But as you can see right now, it's calling for very stiff tailwind of 19, 20 miles an hour, gusts in the 30s. And what this could potentially do is, I'm not worried about the start. The start will be protected and fine. You can get locked on and we can start the race. It's the finish that I'm very concerned about. Past regattas, rolling waves have developed that have crashed into the shore near the finish. So we'll certainly keep an eye out on the weather, and if there are any changes, we'll certainly let you know. I just want to let you know, race every race as if it's your last one. I can't guarantee that semifinals will happen. If for any reason we have to cancel any races, your time in the heats might determine who goes to the final on Sunday, or might even determine who gets a medal. So even though it's a heat or a semifinal, don't race just well enough to move on. Race well enough that you gave it your all. Forecast on Sunday looks much better. Slight tail crosswind from the lane 6 side towards lane 1, and this side is pretty protected with the shoreline and the trees, so I do not have any concerns on Sunday. So at the start, there's some scenarios that could happen. One is a false start, and that is if a crew jumps the line before the starter says go. And if that happens, a warning will be assessed to the offending crew, and then the race will be restarted. Another issue might be failure to start. That's if a crew simply does not leave the start when the starter says go. The coxswain should put their hand in the air. No one should be rowing. If that happens, the starter will stop the other crews, ask you why you didn't start. Maybe you have a good reason, maybe not. Either way, a warning might be assessed, and then the race will be restarted. Another issue could be breakage, and that's if something legitimately breaks within 100 meters, which are marked with red buoys. If you have breakage, you must stop rowing and raise your hand. If we see a stopped crew with a hand raised within the red buoys, we'll stop the rest of the crews. We'll come over to you, assess the breakage, and determine if we can immediately restart the race or if we need some time for a repair, and if we have the time to reschedule if we need to. Otherwise, we'll pull everyone back, restart the race, possibly with a penalty or not. All right, during the body of the race, make sure your boats and oar tips are within your buoy line. That's your water, buoy line to buoy line. If the blade tips cross the buoy line, you're not considered to be in your water anymore, and you lose the protection from the referee. And we're only going to flag a crew if they're at risk of interfering with another crew. So if a crew is behind the other crews, they can go into the other lane if they want to. But if the crew is ahead, you may not go into another crew's lane ahead of them. Also, interference is defined as from another crew, not geese. Geese are treated as a weather. So just like a crosswind or a current in the water, that's the same as geese. We'll certainly do our best to make the race course as inhospitable to the geese as possible during the race weekend, but they are just part of the weather and ambiance of the race course. As far as buoys go, the first 100 meters are red. The last 250 meters are also red. And there's a large orange buoy every 500 meters. At the finish, once you cross, we ask that crews slowly steer towards the right, away from the oncoming warm-up crews on the far side of a buoy line. And also keep your rowers sitting upright. If we see anyone collapsed over after the finish, we're going to assume you have a medical issue and need immediate assistance. Now, if you have an objection, get your hand up immediately to get the attention of the following referee. They'll come over and give you an opportunity to explain what happened and what remedy you're seeking. And then the referee will issue a judgment. If you disagree with the referee's solution, you can elevate your objection to a formal written protest. You'd have to give that to either myself or to the chief judge at the finish line within an hour of your race, along with $100 check written out to the local organizing committee, which is the Cooper Rowing Club. Now, please, crews, stay in the finish area until the referee shows either the white flag indicating the race is official or the red flag indicating that the race has a protest. On Sunday, we're hoping that the awards dock will be in place and ready. No guarantee yet, but we are going to do everything we can to make sure that dock is ready to go. This will be for the first place finishers only. The second and third place, there is going to be a stage near the finish area where you can collect your medals on land. But as long as the awards dock is ready, the first place finisher will be able to get their medals while they're still in the boat. Now, you're still going to have to follow the traffic pattern. So you're going to have to stay right along the buoy line, turn at the end of the buoy line, join the warm-up traffic, and then you'll pass the finish line and pull into the awards dock, which is located between 1,800 and 1,900 meters of the race course. And then after receiving your medals, now if you're going to La Scala, you can just continue on. If you have to go back to Cuthbert, we ask that you wait for the following race to finish, and then you can cross the buoy lines and to the far side and return back to the dock. So here's a little diagram. You can see the finish line, races, crews coming from the left, and then we have the gold-colored boat, winner, excited to go get the medal, following the buoy line first towards the right, to the bottom right of the screen, turning around the end of the buoy line, joining the warm-up crews in blue to go past the finish line to the awards dock, and then waiting for the next race to finish, and then crossing the 6 buoy lines and to the far side, and then returning back to their dock. And also, any crews returning to La Scala will basically follow the same pattern. After crossing the finish line, you'll veer right around the buoy line, join any warm-up crews from Cuthbert, past the finish line, past the awards dock, and back to La Scala. For safety, we'll have EMS on site during racing. They'll be staged at the Cuthbert docks. Please make sure that if you have any athletes with inhalers, they have them with them at their seat in the boat, not with the coxswain, not at the trailer, but with themselves, so that if they need it, they have immediate access to it. Also, feel free to notify me if there are any other health concerns you think we should be on the lookout for. And please, dress appropriately for the weather. We're expecting stiff winds, temperatures in the 40s. Feels like temperature will be even cooler. All right, good luck and have fun, everyone. Looking forward to successful racing this weekend.